Okay, everyone, it's another Thursday here in our little conversation corner. We say welcome to the conversation. Of course, it's Outspoken Opinionated. If you aren't following us, we are on YouTube. The conversation Outspoken Opinionated. We are on Facebook, of course. The conversation Outspoken Opinionated. If you haven't heard, I think I've been saying it now since the season started. We are on Spotify as the conversation Outspoken Opinionated, and we're also on Apple Podcasts. So today is a great day. Today is Thursday, of course. We're here with the first Thursday in the month of May. We're having a great discussion with someone who I think is going to bring us a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of wealth of knowledge when it comes having a conversation with him. I believe that we're going to learn a lot today. So we are going to just have a conversation again on what he's doing, his aspirations, his plans, how he's gathered, what he's doing, how he's gathering it. We'll have a little discussion on, the healthcare system in Liberia. But yeah, before you guys, for those who are watching, I didn't get a shot. I know today is Cinco de Mayo, but I didn't get a shot. But I got my mug and I got my little drink in here. So I'm gonna take a sip in celebration of Cinco de Mayo because I'm doing shots. I'm trying to work on this body, so I can, I want six pack too. So I'm trying to get my 6-pack body on. So I'm trying to get rid of a little bit of the alcohol. I don't know how that's gonna work because last weekend was a whole mess. But welcome to the conversation. I said thank you for guys who are joining us. This is The Conversation. Of course, I am your host, Edwin Maya. I'm going to bring in my guests. You are welcome, sir, to the conversation. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Ernest, Kruah, CEO of Kruahconsultants, and I'm glad to be joining you guys today in discussing healthcare in Liberia and how we can best support and help our brothers and sisters back home. So I'll be open to questions, comments, concerns, and we're going to have the discussion. So I'll give it back to the host so we can start the program.
Okay, this is great. So, you are the CEO, the owner of Kruah Consultants. I believe what you're doing is extremely important. I think, it is my perception, my opinion, my everything. I think it's important that people even understand what you're doing. I think because when we advertised it on Instagram, we advertised it on Facebook, we're like, so what is that? And I'm like, can you Google? Don't ask me that question. Can you? But yeah. So that's it. So if you can tell the people, I'm going to tell the people the company, what you do, and stuff like that.
Okay, so I came we have introduction. We all came from Liberia, so I started here in 2008 with an accounting degree, and settled, and I started to pursue higher education, and I ended up doing a certificate program in central sterile processing. So central sterile processing, or government term, or medical instrument reprocessor. So what a certified central sterile processor does is that they reprocess medical surgical instruments and maintain them. And your role is not just reprocessing and maintaining. You have to take inventory. You have to deal with doctors one-on-one as to what their needs are per procedure. So whatever specialty you are into, if you work in a general hospital, you have to deal with doctors one-on-one as to because it's like a customer support field where we serve as the service delivery people, and our customers are the doctors and the patients. So we get requests from doctors for specialty procedures. Let's say an ORIF. I don't want to go too technical, but like say you broke your finger and a doctor comes in and say, I want some plates and screws for this finger. So it's your job as a technician to actually find the plates and sizes of screws. So you have to be knowledgeable of medical instrumentation, the grades of medical instrumentation, how to process medical instrumentation for safe delivery of patient care. So your job is always in the background. Nobody knows you. They know the doctors, they know the nurses, they know the surgical techs. No one knows who a sterile processor is. So without a sterile processor, there can be no surgery in the entire world. You don't see these guys in the operating room more often besides supervisors or managers. So your job is to actually reprocess instrument, and your job is so important to the outcome of patient safety. Like if you look at today, we have people suing for malpractice. I don't know if some people follow news of maybe ambulatory care centers that a news came out in New Jersey where some sterile processors weren't following proper medical procedure or manufacturing instructions to reprocess instruments, because reusable instruments that are like the instruments that are used in surgery are used on every person at different times. So it's reprocessed to be reused on another person. So you don't go to the hospital and they use a scissor to cut you and throw it out. It's reused over time. So in order for that instrument to be safe to handle, it has to go through a process of decontamination, prep and packaging, inspection, sterilization, storage, and then that's the cycle of the life of the instrument. It goes from operating room to decontamination, where it gets clean, safe to handle, is prepared and packaged, is sterilized based on the manufacturer instructions, and it's safe again for patient Y after patient Z has used it. So if we don't follow these proper manufacturer instructions and steps in cleaning these things, infection happen, hospitals get shut down, they get fined by the government, they cannot be paid. So that's what I'm involved in. That's what I'm teaching in creating a new wave of highly technologically advanced technicians with medical with a background in medical terminology and instrument reprocessing. So that's what this course is about.
So before you go further, I want to ask you. So I think I have a little knowledge, and I think prior to us coming on, I think I explained to you. So I have a little knowledge about what sterile processing is, because I did medical education. So I created education, and so when you're creating an education, you have to put in all that stuff, because when you're going to test your surgeons or your clinicians, they have to know exactly what they're doing. So what I wanted to ask you, I believe there are different instruments for different procedures or for different surgery, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you have to know all of that.
Correct. You have to know all of those medical instrumentation. And it doesn't stop with the advancement in technology. Medical instrumentation are becoming more complex. So the education and the retraining of technicians is continual. That's how we keep abreast with information. As we sit right here, there are instruments being tested. So I get called to do these surveys on new medical instrumentation without naming names of companies. So they're getting more advanced, and surgeries are becoming more minimally invasive. What that means is that if you know of surgical procedure, like normally when someone told you that you were having surgery, it was requiring a body part to be open up, and infusion into the body. But now surgery has moved along from that point since the 1950s, when microscopes and surgical scopes were introduced to the surgical suite. So now there's more minimal invasive surgeries going on, and recovery is faster, healing is faster, people get back to work faster. So back in the days when you had appendicitis, where they had to tear the side of your belly open to get it out, now it's done arthroscopically, where a little incision is done and it's taken out surgically through a little arthroscopic field. So that's how advanced surgery is. So this field of study is a continuous learning process. Every day you get to work, there's something new on the market, there's something new to use, products become obsolete, and it's your job as a technician to keep researching, because doctors out there. So it works in three ways. We have medical reps who represent, I would say, Stryker. I don't know if some people are familiar with these companies like Biomed, Stryker, Smith and Nephew. They go to these doctors' offices and be like, hey, I know you used to use a scissor before and cut through a skin. Now we have this blade that you can just use on a click and it gets to where you go. So what happens to that scissor? It becomes obsolete, and then a new instrument. And it's your job to learn how to reprocess that instrument.
Amazing. So you have your own LLC, you have your own company, you LLC, you Kruah Consultants. And so you are training, I would say, training the next generation to be proficient clinicians and sterile technicians. So can you tell us, what is, first, I want to know why you decided to start, why did you decide to have this company?
Well, back in school, the best way I could learn was to teach. Yes. So back in college, so I went to Cotton University. For those of people in Liberia, I went to Cotton University, and back there I was an accounting major. So the best way I could actually study was to teach freshman students or sophomore students at the time they were starting to be their one-on-one courses. So I started training in order to learn, and I wanted growth. I wanted growth. I didn't just want to become a certified sterile technician. I wanted more. So I started to research, and in order to research in central sterile processing, you have to actually teach and learn. And
Okay.
as a teacher, you have to research before you come and present to your students. So that way I kind of acquired knowledge. And after I started teaching, people were always recommending, like, oh, go to Ernest. He knows how to do this. And one time during a surgical procedure of a podiatric case, a black anesthesiologist was like, Ernest, I notice people always come to you to refer them to somewhere. He like, why don't you monetize this? And the bell went up. And like, so back in 2017, I started pro bono. I started teaching for free and training for free. And then I incorporated my business in 2020. And then I started to reach out to people, especially black and brown kids in the neighborhood who I saw were just standing around. Because this is a piece of information that a lot of people don't know. Like I said, people know doctors, people know nurses, people know surgical techs, but no one hears about a sterile technician because you're never in the foreground. You're always in the background doing the dirty work for people to walk out safe after post surgery. So that's how I began this field, and it's been good so far actually. Anyone can do it with a high school diploma. If you can read, you can actually, it's not an easy, it's not like the most common thing because it requires a lot of medical terminology.
Yeah.
It takes time and experience to actually get to a certain level, but anyone can do this who can actually read.
So you started off in accounting,
Correct.
and now you're in healthcare. And
Correct.
so how did that transfer over? Because I'm trying to understand. Okay, I know with accounting, for lack
So
of knowledge, some math, and I know in this you have to know some calculations and all that kind of stuff. So how did that play in?
So this is what happened. When we used to go back to church in Liberia, the pastor always said that whatever you do, whatever job you have, right, you do it to the best. If you're a sweeper, you sweep to the best. Make sure it's dust free when you sweep. So I have that approach to anything I do. While I was here continuing my studies, because when I came over, I had to redo my degree. I had to go back to school because America was like transfer your credits, and I had to do a year and a half back in accounting. So when I was at Berkeley College, I asked my older brother, I'm like, listen, I need to do something that I can work less, that I can buy my books and that pays me more money. So like, oh, do sterile processing. I'm like, what is that? He's like, oh, go to here. And then I researched. So I took the course. So it was an accelerated course for 6 weeks at the North Valley Hospital here in New Jersey. And then I passed. So when I graduated from Berkeley, I started working with the New York Times in New York City. But as a new grad, you know how they pay in this country. They're like, okay, we're just gonna pay you like 40,000. I'm like, 40,000 with New Jersey and New York tax? Yeah, exactly. With the two taxes, I'm like, okay, I need experience. So I was contracted for 6 months, another 6 months, a whole year, and I'm like, yeah, I'm from Liberia. I need to pay the bills. So, and in that time, while I was in school for the year and a half, I was a certified tech. I was working at the Inglewood Hospital. I was training, and then I started progressing in that field. So I got called by this private-owned company that own a couple of surgery centers in New Jersey, and like, hey man, we're gonna hire you for top dollar. So I look at my degree and I look at the pay. I'm going that way. So I've never looked back since. So I've used my accounting skills for my own business now.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. Now that you run your own business, I believe your accounting skills for the company place,
I tell my books,
taxes and do all your financial and stuff like that. So I think they work hand in hand.
They work hand in hand. So that was the plan, because I wasn't really doing accounting to actually be an accountant. It's good. I'm good at it, but that's not where I saw myself. But I really take pleasure in actually teaching. I think that's where I found myself. So I kind of realized that from back in Liberia in Cotton, I really like to teach. and I think I'm kind of good at it in a way. So it's like a peaceful place for me when I try to impact knowledge on people. So that's why I started doing that, and it's going on now. Yeah,
and that's great. And you talk about cutting down. Too many people I know graduated from cutting down. So we're not gonna have this show. We're gonna have a whole different conversation. I actually used to sneak to go there and spend a week while she was in school, but we're not. And got
it was that place. Yeah,
got a lot of trouble, but I think what you're doing is amazing. I think the fact that you are creating this, you're creating a course, you are helping people to find a different path in life.
correct.
And so, for your program, what are the requirements for people to come into your program and be successful?
It's hard. The number one to be successful at anything, honestly, is the will to do it.
Yeah.
So I interview all my students before they take the course. I'm like, listen, you're gonna pay me, but I really want to know that you're gonna use this knowledge that I'm giving you today to actually impact your life, because I can teach you today, and is about what you're gonna do with that information you've been given. So it's always an individual choice as to how far they want to go with the knowledge they're impacted with, because you have to want something to do it. No one has to force you to do it. The field is great. Like, over the past 3 years, the pay rate for a sterile processor has gone up to $55 an hour.
Wow.
In New York City and New Jersey. So, and not every state requires a full certification, but the Northeast and the West Coast do require that. But it's still good, because what the HSPA, the certification organization, is striving with Congress to do is to make sure that before you become a certified sterile technician to actually touch medical instrumentation and care for them, you have to be board certified. So my job is actually teaching you the basics. So the course is answering the question why to what you're doing. Why am I doing what I'm doing? So we answer the question as to why. Why is this done this way? So it covers medical terminology. It covers regulatory agencies. I'm sure everyone has already heard about OSHA, CDC, and all of these things during COVID, right? So now that COVID made us realize how the world is a global village, that everything that affects one part of the world affects another. So with medical terminologies and infection control that you actually take part in this course, kind of like fortifies you to actually be a sterile technician and know what you're doing.
Amazing. So they get into. So how long is your course?
My course is a 6-week course. Is a 6-week program. It's accelerated. It's 6 week. My last class was 4 days a week. I'm gonna scale this one back to 3 days a week, because I understand people. Everyone is busy, and I'm gonna scale it back. It was 5 weeks. Then I'm gonna increase it to 6 weeks and have the course done. So within 6 weeks, we're going to be done with the coursework. But after we're done with the coursework, like I was telling you before the show started, is a continual testing until I can make sure that you're proficient enough. You have that average that I want you to be at before I can send you to sit for the state certification. So the work for my course is already done. I'm just, researching new information, because we just got new publications coming out that I have to research and put back into lesson. So we just had the ST91 publication come out 2 months ago for endoscopes. People who maybe older folks who are listening now, people who go for like the GI if you're over 50 years old. So there's a new publication for that, and new requirements as to how to maintain, because they're not instruments that are sterilized, they're high level disinfected. So they are new because of the infection, post-surgery infection of people who had GI scope. There are new publication that I have to read and readjust and revise my curriculum. So yeah, if you can read and write, you can sign up for the course. And if you study and you really want to do it, you can really make a living out of it. And everyone, there's no limitation. You can be what you want to be.
You just said something that's extremely important. You are constantly learning.
Correct.
As you're relearning.
Correct. And impacting that knowledge to people as it comes out. So my job is to go out there, do the research, and teach you. Like the book I'm teaching right now from the 8th edition publication. But in that book, it's kind of like that's the latest publication from Isham. But
Okay.
some information in that book is actually still is older. Some things have changed. So what I do teach is the most recent information I will give you, and then I write the HSPA and tell them, hey, I want you to know that the information here is obsolete, and hopefully that your test is also your test will be reflective of the present information we are using. So, for example, we certain things we use. Some I don't maybe some people might be familiar. So we use this term called biological indicators. So before it used to be called a class of indicator.
Okay.
We used to call it class 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but it was changed to type of indicator because it wasn't really a class, because you have integrated indicators and just regular, indicators and regular indicators. So the integrated indicators just crawl across and they're heat sensitive. So those terms change, the questions in the test changes as well. And it's my job to actually give them the most recent information. Even the book has the older one. I'll give them both. I'm like, listen, this is what is in the book, and this is what's new right now. So know both of them. If you see them on the test as is, you answer the question based on what you know. So I'm constantly updating my lesson as we go along. Same thing. So apart from teaching, I run a department that I have to keep the workers over there updated. So it's my job to write the policy for my company. So in order to write policy to mirror what those regulatory standards are from AMI, OSHA, CDC, and all those companies, I have to go and report to my nursing director and be like, this has changed. We have to readjust. And usually states will give you a window. Like I just had a New Jersey state come in to interview us, and I was asking like, okay, when is this going to be implemented? Like the new guidelines for endoscopes. So they told like it just came out a couple of months ago. So they kind of give a couple of years. But for my company, I like to be ahead of the game. If it comes out today, I get the book today. We revise it like now, and we start practice, because practice is perfection. If you wait until last minute to train your staff, they tend to make more mistakes. So when you start them very early, same way I treat my students. As it comes out, I furnish you that information so you get used to it. So that's the process.
So your class is virtual or is in person?
Well, because of COVID, it's virtual now. So I'm hoping by summer to start in person.
In person, okay.
And that'll be people from the tri-state area. People. So I live in New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey. So I'm going to be having classes in Jersey City, New Jersey. But my in-person class is going to be one Saturday a week, which is going to be all day. My virtual classes, so you can pick and choose. Some people prefer to sit and listen to a long lecture. Some people prefer 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. So it's going to be a choice. And some people are really in-person learning. They like you to talk to them.
Yeah.
Looking at a computer screen for 2 hours a day is kind of like hard, but I'm used to that. So by my next class is supposed to be starting at 16. Hopefully I have books, because I have to order books and ship some. And with the COVID crisis, everything is back order. I had that problem with the last class. I'm hoping this class we have books in stock that I can actually ship out to people before the 16th. If not, I'll push it down another 2 weeks, because I push it down to 2 weeks. But that's how it is, and it's really worth the try. I'll tell anyone that, because I'm a living example, and knowing the ability of people nowadays, I think everyone can actually give it a shot. You just have to want to do it, not just to take the course and just sit on the idea and let it rot.
Good. So we're going to transition into another aspect.
Right. Yeah.
You are originally from Liberia. I'm originally from Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
You are in healthcare. I'm also in healthcare. That's my regular 9 to 5. Okay. And then I do this and I do some things. But I like to talk to people who are in healthcare and who are thriving in what I would say in the European world or in America, in other places where there are standards, there are regulatory bodies that determines how you're going to run their policies and regulations. And so then I like to talk about, okay, let's have a conversation about our country, Liberia. Right. Because over the last couple of years, we're seeing literally the healthcare system deteriorate. And so I want to ask you, for someone who, you were, I believe you were born and raised in Liberia. You came here
Yeah.
as an adult.
Oh yeah.
You came here as an adult, same as me. I want to ask you, so when you hear these things as someone who is actually currently in healthcare and working, what is your perception when it comes to the Liberian healthcare situation?
Well, I think is it's dire. Is in a dire need of revamp, and I think it's what the only hurdle. I think I might be wrong. The only hurdle is that to have individuals who are open to change,
Okay.
to who are open to actually evolving the medical system. Like I said before, is a continuously evolving field.
Yeah.
Medicine is evolving all the time. We have operating rooms in Liberia that have open windows, which technically you're not supposed to, because you allow contaminated air into the operating room, and we don't have the legit not we don't have the equipment you know to actually help doctors who have the know-how to actually do the job. And if you're a farmer, if you don't have, like, for basic farming in Liberia, if you don't have a cutlass or a hoe, you can't really cut down a tree. You can't go and fell a tree. You can cut down a tree with your bare hands. So doctors and technicians need it too, which is education, and they need the equipment to actually facilitate the job. So I feel like if people in Liberia, who most doctors were educated overseas, can be open to education and training, we can have a better outcome of patient care in Liberia. And I don't think it's difficult. It's just to have a willing ear to listen to you and how we can bring this change about. And I spoke to you, I'm willing to go there to talk to people at the Ministry of Health, because if you don't know, you don't know. If you don't know that after a procedure that a room has to be turned over and decontaminated and sanitized for the next procedure, you don't know these things. If you don't know about cross contamination, if you don't know a little bit of microbiology of how long a hepatitis C virus is going to stay on the surface, if you don't know how long the HIV virus lives without oxygen, you are left in this dark space that I work when, when a patient comes out with HIV and people are so afraid. I'm more afraid of hepatitis B that lives longer than HIV that lives on oxygen, and it gets away from oxygen, it dies right away. So these are things that we equip people with, to know the difference, and not just the hype of, oh, it's HIV, so hey, it is equivalent to death. Whereas if you get Hep B, A, or C, is more deadly and a long-term effect on your liver than HIV that dies before it even leaves the operating room to decontamination. So my thing with Liberia, I feel like we need to have a conversation like this with people, and no red tape, not highly politicized, just come and go. Like, what can we do as a people to help one another?
And that's why I want to go from there, because I feel, as for me, what I have experienced is, I think we are looking at government. And I think now, at the rate that we're on right now, we can't look at government.
No.
We can't look at government. We need to start working from in the field. So I did a little project last year. I am passionate. So because I'm in public health, everything I do is I really target a specific audience. So I was looking at adolescent girls in Liberia who I realized, you know what? I read this book that there were girls who didn't have menstrual products. And I was like, what? What do you mean they don't have that? Like, how is that possible? Like, yeah. So I partnered with this organization. We did it. We went into areas we went to a place in Marquis County. We distributed stuff. We did some education, sex education. I don't know, with the girls and stuff like that. And I saw the impact, because I had little girls who are having conversations. I was just like, okay, that little girl having this kind of conversation, she's doing something else. So instead of having this conversation, we need to talk to her about safe sex. And so stuff like that. So we tackle a lot of things. And I feel it's like what you're doing right now, what you're talking about is, I think I saw another girl recently on Facebook who actually, she carried, like, I think she's from either Jersey or Pennsylvania. There were like maybe 16, maybe I think up to 20 nurses. And they went to Liberia and did a class. They did reaccreditation class to registered nurses, did policies and procedures, what it's supposed to do as that's what they did. They just went there and they did it.
Yes,
exactly. And I think because for me, I think this is what we need to do because our people are literally dying from the simplest thing.
Exactly, from curable diseases. So like we have malaria, diarrhea, neonatal disorder, like you were talking about. So all of these preventable diseases are causing death of people, and it's all due to the lack of our funding, logistics. And if you can educate people, like a lot of people won't die from this because we have a, I mean, for the latest population of 5 million, which came out in 2021 from the World Bank, New York City has 8+ million people, just the city of New York, and they can manage that. So I feel like if we actually invest into it, if they not just, but like there are organizations besides the Liberian government that know the importance of healthcare, know the importance of infection control. The CDC has 4 employees from the United States in Liberia and other Liberian employed in Liberia. So these are people who are there willing. The problem is getting a willing ear to actually listen. And can we do this? Like, forget the money part. Let's see how best we can take this, this small amount of people that we can cater to. Like you stated earlier, sending people out of the country for more advanced training. Because once you teach people, they don't go back to the old ways. They learn the new thing and keep progressing. And the word right now, and if this happens, Liberia will be a beneficiary of advanced technology. Because when you purchasing anything now, you're not going to purchase stuff that was used in the 70s. You're purchasing technology here and now, and people are going to learn about here and now. And all those minimal event, you train your doctors. When you don't work in healthcare, the assumption is a doctor knows everything. No, a doctor
I like to tell them nope.
Exactly. So when it comes to surgical procedure and specialty, you have medical representatives who teach doctors how to use new instruments that are introduced. We have cadaver lab. You bring a torso of a dead person who donated his body, and doctors learn. You can do the same thing in Liberia. Then you going for a gallbladder procedure, and someone open up your entire rib cage just to get a gallbladder out. It can be done in a minimal invasive way if we have the right tools and equipment to use.
And I think it's important what you say, having the right tools. Because I think those, like for example, if you give an example of having a gallbladder removed, they might not have a laparoscopic instrument. They might not have that, so they're going to get a scalpel, slit that open,
go inside.
And then when the go inside come out, do what they gotta do. They might get septic. That person might not be able, might not have beds for that person, so that person might go home. There's somebody that watch that wound, see that wound is secure, and all that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, so I mean, all of these things happen. So you have discharge instructions that nurses give that people need to be trained on. Hey, if you go home, you can't take a shower for 24 hours. You have to pat down and wipe down. All of these things. Maybe it's done there. We have supplies that are used in Liberia. I mean, we have a lot of reusable supplies. I mean, disposable supplies in the United States, where the drapes we use for surgery are disposable. The only thing that's reusable mostly in the United States are medical instrumentations. Almost everything is disposable, but I'm sure in Liberia they have drapes that they have to wash in some detergent. And who knows if a patient. So if a patient has hepatitis, and if that drape wasn't properly laundered, it's going back on patient Z, right? And if it wasn't properly laundered and patient Z body fluids come in contact with that, so all of this stuff goes into the sterile processing training I'm talking about. The principle of sepsis, right? Know what is dirty, know what is clean, know what is sterile. Keep them separate and do it over and over. So it might sound, because we do it all the time, it sounds very simple to me, and those are the principles I live by. But it might be different for someone who's using a pressure cooker to sterilize a blade handle in Liberia. So that's the problem. And
you don't know what pressure cooker, but they have to have light first for the pressure cooker to come on.
Exactly. So
there are so many different layers of different things.
Exactly.
Many barriers that you have to break down, but I think you said it earlier. I just hope people have the listening ears to just be like, look, I'm gonna be here for 2 weeks, and I'm gonna provide. I can give you guys the knowledge. I can train you guys on what it is. And I need to train somebody, so when I go, this person can be able to train other people. And I think that's all is it that we need. I think when I see people, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, I'm like, you have to train these people so they can be able to be effective. You can go
Exactly.
and do it for them, because when you do it
No.
for them and leave, then everybody said
Exactly.
that nobody may not they may
Right.
go back.
Yes, and the thing is, like I said before, even for students here, is a continuing education program. If you're a member of the HSPA, which is a certification organization for central sterile technician, the the information they provide is to actually teach you current. Like we have webinars, we have everything on there, and these websites are accessible to people in Liberia.
Yeah.
So you can train these people, and you really don't have to come back. They have the resources online. I'm sure they have internet at JFK or some hospitals that on a month I give in service on a monthly basis to my staff. There's always something, and there are numerous information coming out every single day that I have to research and train it, even if we have it or not, because you don't limit people. My philosophy at work is that I push you to the limit. I'll push you until you get the last certification. So, and I always tell them, like, I might not be here tomorrow because I want to train you in a way that when I leave here, you can be able to run this department, right? So same thing for anyone I train, like students out there. Like, I'm not just teaching you to become a certified central service technician. Go and get your CHL, your CER, all of the certification that's associated with this job, so you can be very knowledgeable when it comes time to actually perform and represent. Because with knowledge comes power and responsibility, and when you are held responsible in this position, is your job to actually perform your duties. And that's why, you know, I'm well respected at at where I work because of the knowledge that I bring to the table. And you come a time in, especially, you know, the Liberian brothers I've talked to. I mean, you have to own this thing and make it work for you, because people respect the knowledge you carry, not about what you physically do, but what you carry up here. And that's why they respect more at work. You
Yeah.
know, they know they can rely on me for state visits. They know I have the know-how and technical skills to actually run. No one worries about my department. We always have flying colors after a state or JCO visit. So they know that that is taken care of. And when I incorporated this class in 2000, the head of this the company, like, you're not leaving us, right? I'm like, no, like, I'm not leaving. I'm this is my side hustle. But it makes you more marketable, and it guarantees a state that you can actually monetize and help people in the process. So yeah.
So with this, we're talking about Liberia. We're talking about what you're doing. How can we? I don't know. I feel it's like How can we incorporate what you're doing in Liberia?
So I was, like I said, I was researching with my one of my buddies from Cutner who did public health just as you are. And I was telling him, like, I need to talk to the right people so I can actually train people. People need training, not only training, but like I said, it's a layer, like you said earlier, it's a layer of problems. It's a whole web of problems that we have to talk about. You can only do things one at a time, right? You need supplies, you need logistics to actually have things working in Liberia. And we can do it. We have you have USAID, you have the UNICEF that have all of these programs in place that if you actually reach out to them, they can actually help people. Again, willing ears. Are people willing to listen and learn and keep up with the information provided? That's my only thing. I'm not going there to train you and come back to be your boss. No, I
No.
want to equip you with the knowledge that you can actually help other people and actually train people. Like, we have skill set that we can use in Liberia and make, instead of you flying to Ghana for a surgery, you can stay right in Liberia and have that procedure done in a minimal invasive way, and you can have a speedy recovery or shorter turnover. There's so much that's popping in my head about Liberia that I just have to get there first. What I learned, I like to take baby steps.
Okay.
I like to take baby steps. I like to start step one. Let's tackle the operating room.
Okay.
Let me get into the operating room. I want to talk to the surgical techs. I want to talk to the sterile technician, because in my mind, I think it's the surgical tech that does the same job the sterile technician does. I want to see the aseptic practices of how they deliver surgical instruments to the OR. All of these things, and once you teach people the right way, and if they're willing to listen and learn, you're not going to have someone coming from post surgery with some infection, hospital acquired infection,
Yeah.
because people don't know how to properly clean. You said you walked into an OR and blood is still on the floor, right? So if you walk in a healthy person and there was a patient who had tuberculosis that had a lung transplant or whatever, and you're a healthy person without proper cleaning of that surgical suite, you're gonna walk out with tuberculosis.
But I will tell you, there was this I have a friend who always would send me. She used to send me clips of things that happened in Liberia when it comes, because at that time I was like so passionate about patient safety and healthcare quality. And there was this lady who she went to give birth. She couldn't have vaginal birth, regular birth, so they
You have
did a
to have a
C-section.
C-section.
So she did a C-section and she went back home. But I think after she went back home, she started to have eternal bleeding. She was bleeding. But for back up, talk about the hospital, they said they couldn't touch her because apparently somebody had said that the woman had HIV. That lady sat there on the floor and drowned in her own blood and died.
So they left all the medical ethics and threw it out the window about patient care.
Yep, somebody said that she had HIV and nobody was going to touch her because they didn't want to get HIV. And I'm like,
all right.
My thing was like, did you guys forget that you did cut her a couple of days ago? You cut her and exposed everything working like.
So I know what that tells me. What you just said tells me that people are not trained enough to do surgical asepsis, to actually protect yourself using the proper PPE for surgical procedure. So what we do in the United States is general precaution, right? General precaution. So is the set of precaution is assume everyone is infectious. Yeah. Assume whether the person has HIV or not, assume that person is infectious until they leave that surgical suite. So when you scrub for a baby, it's like the baby already has Ebola and you're protecting yourself against Ebola. So it's standard precaution. Assume everything is dirty, everyone is infectious until they leave that suite. So HIV patients, with the exception of the Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, CJD, that's the only exception of those prions that you have to have some high consideration with as to what you need to use, right? You have to use disposable, and that only happens with like spinal procedure, like something that has to do with the spinal cord or maybe a craniotomy. That's the only time those exceptions are put into place that you say, yes, we are going to have, a standard precaution, but whatever we use here is going to be a one-time use and disposable. But everything else is standard precaution. So with that assumption, if they know that, you treat every patient the same. HIV, whatever the patient has. We did a patient today with HIV.
I said the patients that I work with that HIV, they're more healthy than some of you're passing around here.
Exactly. HIV, yes, it's like
I said they are more healthy than you. So you worry about them having HIV. You passing around here with syphilis, chlamydia, and all the other STD that can actually take you out. And you worry about somebody who got HIV. Trust me, they're good.
Yeah, and that's the stigma, you see. So people have to learn that in the medical field, like stigmas happen for years, and then it's curtailed. Like you can live with HIV for years. The virus is suppressed with antiviral treatment, is safer than COVID. COVID killed more people than HIV has been in a year. And you're more afraid. Like I was giving an example of people who are afraid of HIV than hepatitis. I'm like, okay, so education. If you train people, if those people were trained enough to surgical asepsis, they would have saved that woman's life. They would have protected themselves properly, wear the proper glove, don the proper gown, wear the proper face shield, and open her and cauterize whatever blood that was, whatever artery that was bleeding.
Treat it out.
Yes.
And triage her. But this is what I think, and I think you said it before, and I think that is the proper. I think it's education.
Yeah,
we really need to focus on education, educating our people. We have to be. I think it's like it's not even a joke anymore.
No.
It's 2022. I mean, science is advancing. I would say every 30 days, and
every minute.
We can stuck in the 70s. I mean, someone can go to the hospital. I'm sorry, people who are watching, don't get offended. And someone tell you they have diabetes, and you give them glucose. That is just like, for me, that is like the simplest thing you can. Oh no, I can't get a glucose.
So yeah, it's it sounds crazy, but it's true and it's sad. But as you know, people, I mean, children of the motherland, we
Yeah,
have to contribute our best, skill set to the listening ears
yeah,
and people who are willing to actually get out. And the fact that we have to depend on somebody to do it for us, there's nobody coming. you know um we got to pick ourselves our bootstraps and do it. Nobody's coming. We got to do it ourselves. So, and I'm glad that this generation, you, me, and other people in the diaspora are actually looking to, like, people are reaching out to me and thanking me. Like, I'm like, listen, there are a lot of Liberians I know who are in this field
yeah.
as well.
No, it's somebody just comments. Somebody who was watching said that she's a surgical tech,
Yeah,
and she work alongside Central Sterile Processing.
yeah,
And she's another Liberian who runs her own skincare company. And she's
exactly.
so I think we are. I'm gonna say this, and I think this is what happens to everybody that come on my show. There is a project already coming up, and I think we're just gonna do a project.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right?
We gotta
And I'm
collaborate and do it.
definitely going to connect you with somebody who's working on creating it's more of a professional institute where they're
Okay.
going to give out, they want to do a certificate program institutes, but they really
Yeah, of
want Liberians professionals around the world to teach these classes. So it can be by
course.
Zoom or whatever it is, and you can teach a
Right.
class and stuff like that. So he's been going back and forth on it and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
definitely, but you have created a pathway for yourself.
Yeah.
You and I would say at those who just come and you wanted to be an accountant, you have created a whole pathway for yourself in this whole central sterile processing. So for people who are watching and
Yeah.
who said, I won't be, I can't even find the word. I won't be this. I don't want to that. I don't think that is important. I don't want to be a lawyer, but I can never pass the bar exam. And I'm like, so you're not going to be a lawyer. So how can they get to that space? What is it? And what is it? Is it more of a passion thing? Is it more of the money thing? Because for me, it got to be the money thing. If the money not
Well,
working.
yeah, for me, number one, like I told you, it was money was the incentive that drew me to this first, right? And
Mhm.
second is that one advice I have for people, I know I'm not old enough to advise people, but one thing
No,
you can
you're
take is that no education is wasted.
good.
Not one. Everything that you ever acquire along the way of your lifetime impacts and kind of will support the output of your future. Like, no education is wasted. If you, prime example, me, right? Okay, I didn't see this path. I
Mhm.
was, I had, unfortunately for us, the culture in Liberia will raise you like you have to go to college, you have to get a degree, and you have to work in an office, right? So entrepreneurship was never introduced or encouraged. We used to sit and see foreigners do it, and we didn't. We wanted to, like, dress in a suit and tie and sit in an office and be called boss. I don't have that mentality. So if you can just, it's like I said, it's what drives you to it and maybe the passion about it. We, for everyone else, like, if you look at this country, the college system in this country is like a scam to me, right?
What is the story?
Because if you look at more successful people, is about what they love to do, they monetize it. Every person that's out there that's successful today monetize what they like doing. And like I said, the United States of America is your marketplace. I'm behind my computer screen talking to how many amount of people out there, right? You
Mhm.
can do the same by impacting people out there the same way. It's about how the willpower or the passion to do it. So you can go out there and be the best version of yourself. The only thing is there's no downtime. I got my backpack over here. This is my entire office. I go around with my camera. I can teach from any location, any part of the world. I have my Wi-Fi pack with me that I can just open my laptop and computer. And you have to make it your time and invest in yourself. Nothing is too expensive when it comes to education. Nothing. Like, you have to read books, you have to research. You can become a sterile technician and just stay a sterile technician, but you can
Yeah.
advance yourself. You can advance yourself. You can consult. I'm consulting with hospitals. I set up new surgical centers. When doctors I've worked with over the years who know me, if they partner with other doctors to open a surgical suite, they would be like, okay, I'm like, so what's your specialty? What's your specialty? What type of, are you doing traumatic? Are you doing trauma? Are you doing just regular podiatry? Then I'll tell you, this is what you need. This is what you need. This is what you need. How many times are you going to do a trauma case? So this is amount you can spend this amount of money. So it has to do with, you have to know, that's where my accounting skill sets in. I can do your budgeting for you and say, listen, if you're going to invest in a capital equipment that can be depreciated over time, and that's where my accounting, and then be like, how do you know? I'm like, I just know numbers. I don't tell people I'm an accountant. So, but I know, and that's the thing, you have to know education is wasted. I didn't know I was going to be, but that comes to my job. Like when I'm doing my consulting, and I break down the budget for a surgery center and how much you're going to make, how much you're going to depreciate instrument over time, how much you can appreciate them over time by, these are all accounting knowledge I put into sterile processing when I consult with surgical centers that are just opening. So there's no waste because I know what you use in surgical procedures. I know the type of specialties doctors perform. And I'll tell you, if you're doing this 5 times a year, there's no need to purchase this. You can have a loaner, which is going to be less cost than you purchasing a full equipment that costs XYZ, or do a consignment system where they give it to you for free, but you buy the implants. So invest in yourself, and anyone can be at this level I am. Like anyone that can read and write and has the will to do it, trust me, you can do it. And I don't want it to take long like I did for other people. So like the younger generation who are coming up, I tell them like, okay, do this. I've done the hard work already. I've grind up to come to this level. I don't want you to take that same amount of time it took me because it was too long from what I see. So like the cats I'm teaching now, I'm like, listen, do this. Once you pass this course, do this. Market yourself. I'll start making real money out there as fast as you can.
Yeah.
On little or nothing. Or you can go to Berkeley College and take the course for $25,000 and pay student. I'm just saying. But that's it. You have to invest in yourself and have that entrepreneurship mindset that you can be your own boss. It's not easy, don't get me wrong. It's tough because the beginning is very tough. But over time, you have people like you reaching out to me that spread the word. And it works both ways. Like when I started with the American attitude, no offense to anyone out there, but in Liberia, we are used to giving and sharing. We have our food. We invite you to a party. We invite you to eat at our party. We don't invite you to bring stuff to our party because that's how we are. When I started this course and started doing it for free, a lot of people are like, why are you giving it for free? You have to let people pay. I'm like, I'm sowing some seed over here, people.
Yeah, you gotta get them in.
People will go out. They'll go out there and say, I learned this from over there. You can go there too. So always be open up. Like, the saying like when you keep this fist closed, it doesn't receive anything. You have to open up your hand and learn to give, and then you receive more. I mean, that's just me though. And that's the philosophy I live with. Because what I'm impacting right now, I'm not doing like a sale business. It's just knowledge I'm impacting. It's stuff that I already know. I'm not buying and selling anything. So if I do it for somebody for free, it's like I'm helping somebody build some foundation for themselves, and they'll remember me down the road somewhere, or help somebody else.
What you're saying is very important, and someone also said it. The same girl, Jamadi Scott, she was on a show the other day, and she was talking about she runs her own business, and she was saying how there are so many things out there for people who are running their own business, especially for Black women, single mothers, and she gave out a lot of. She have her YouTube channel and she do that too. And what we realized, and I realized it too, in our Liberian community, it's sorry to say, I'm sorry, we don't like to share. I have my space. I stay on my space because I want to be the boss and I want to outshine me. So I keep it. But then you're like, but how will you grow if you don't want competition? Because competition boosts you up to grow. And so that's and people laugh and kind of say, I'm like, I do my podcast and I look at other podcasts and I'm like, oh, okay, I see you doing that. I'm step my game up because he's doing that. And that's what you just said, you've obtained knowledge, you've done it, it took you a longer time for you to do it, but you did it good, you got it right. Why don't I help somebody else so they can't follow that path of being so long?
Yes.
You can do it for 6 weeks, you can get this good. And I don't know why we aren't doing that. It's so like I have had so much bad experience since I started this podcast. Because for me, I'm like, I really want to partner with Liberian people. I want to get Liberian people on board. You got to the end, like, I will get back to you. I will call you. They never call you.
It's an individual. I think it's an individual thing, and when you're used to opening up yourself, you kind of receive blessing in a way. Like what we say in Liberia, seek it for fair. What for you should see your face. You have your blessing. No one can take it from you, no matter what you do. Like it's yours. It's yours. You might get disappointed, yes, but it's yours. So my thing is, I try partnering with a lot of Liberian people I know. Like I'm like, listen, we can multiply ourselves, right? The United States of America and the world is your marketplace. I can't teach everyone in New Jersey, bro.
No,
it's impossible. You can do it. If I multiply myself and train somebody else, we can make this grow. You can teach people everywhere. I got 8 million people in New York City. I can teach 8 million people. Why would I hold that information to myself and be like, hey, let me get all this money? I'll be like, I need 200 years in my life to actually do that. Exactly. So that's why when people tell me, oh, you can do it for free, I'm like, you might see it as free, but I'm just opening windows. So people listening, if you're interested, you can join up. You're not gonna regret it if you really want to do it. And open yourself up. Sometimes what you think is you giving for free, you're actually benefiting.
I agree. Yeah. Since the start of this podcast, I've met some amazing people. Doors is open for me, and people want to get on my church. Right? Somebody called me the other day. She said, "Also, how much do I pay?" I said, "Pay." I said, "No, you don't pay nothing." I said, "You want to talk about your business? You want to talk about?" I said, "Sure, just come. Let's have a conversation about it." And I will ask you. Cause trust me, you teaching me. You think I'm sitting as you teaching me? I'm expanding knowledge, and I'm getting certain things I didn't even know. But Mr. Kruah, it's been great. You've been amazing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Our time is up. I just got the text to let me know that our time is up. Yeah,
okay, thank you so much.
My time must be serious on me, but it's been amazing. This was great. I hope for us to do so many great things. I wish you all the best of luck with your consultant business, with the training, with everything that you're doing. For people to follow you, he's Ernest Kruah. He's on Instagram. It's Kruahconsultants LLC. And the website is Kruahconsultantsllc.com. You guys can go there, get more information. He got information about his courses and everything, but it was good, sir, having a conversation with you. I hope to have more conversation. And is there anything you can leave the people with, those who are watching?
Well, I would like to say I thank you for having me first. And for all of African and West African people, well, out of Africa, the Black and Brown brothers first, I mean, no offense to anybody out there, but you can reach out. There's always a way. And like I said before, it doesn't have to be hard because like you have cousins and relatives just coming to the United States. Have them have a skill set that they can monetize as soon as possible, then sending them to become a cashier at a store. It's great. But once you get them plugged into something they can monetize, they can grow out. You don't have to stay a sterile technician. You can use this course to do something else in the medical field. You can do this and go to nursing school. Even as a nurse, you can still monetize as a nurse. You can't just work 9 to 5 as a nurse. Like you said about the nurses who went back to Liberia. So my advice is that whatever you do it to the best and monetize it. Be your own boss.
Good. Well, the people enjoy you. People are giving you a thumbs up. They are clapping. They appreciate it. They say, yep, this is great. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. There was one question somebody asking. I don't know. I'm going to ask you it. But somebody said, is he single?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not.
I don't know, people. I don't know. Those are not part of the questionnaires. We're not asked that in the questionnaire.
Sorry. I'm not single.
He say he's not single, people. I'm sorry. You can still slide the DM. Something might happen. I don't know.
Don't get me in trouble, man.
Okay, man. Thank you so much for being here. Okay,
I appreciate the invite, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
You guys stay blessed out there, and thanks for the support.
Okay. So, of course, guys, this was a conversation. We had a great conversation with Mr. Ernest Kruah. He runs his own consulting services. It's called Kruahconsultants LLC. He's based out of New Jersey, but he's really working to make sure that this The Central Sterile Processing course can go out in the entire tri-state area. And for us in the DMV, go to the main website, check it out. We do have virtual classes as well. So you guys can participate and obtain this knowledge. I mean, he's telling us that pay can go up to $55 an hour. I mean, I don't know about job, but I think that's pretty good. But this was the conversation, of course. I'm your host, Edwin Meyer. I see you next week, Thursday, with another conversation with another Liberian man who runs his own soap line here in the States. He's out of the DMV area. He is a son of the soil, and it's going to be a great conversation as well. I said, thank you guys. You have a great Thursday. Cinco de Mayo. I'm going to take another sip. And I'll see y'all later.